This is the Millennial Podcast, delivering you the most exclusive insights from the top entrepreneurs and influencers from around the world. Hosted by business owner and influencer, Ricky Wynn. Now on to the show.
Yo, what's up, guys? You're now tuning into the Millennial Movement. I'm your host, Ricky Wynn, and this is the dopest business podcast. Guys, today we have a very special guest on the show today, Ryan White. Ryan, how are you doing today, my guy?
I'm good, Ricky. I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me on today. I'm stoked to deliver some value to your audience.
Heck yeah, man. Thank you for, just taking the time just to, be here, taking time just to be here, providing knowledge as well. So, to jump into the show, go ahead, open up a little bit about yourself. We're going to jump right into the questions.
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Ryan White. I'm 28 years old. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. And, a lot of people know me through the baseball industry. I went to college on a baseball scholarship, graduated with a degree in accounting. From 2013 to 2017, I was basically a private baseball coach and instructor. And then March 2017, I basically kind of launched what is now known as social revelation marketing as a side hobby. And now 2 years later, this is what I do full-time. It's my full-time gig, main source of revenue, and it's scaled into the seven-figure company that it is today.
Okay, so going back, I know you went to college. Did you have a scholarship for baseball?
Yes. So, I've been playing baseball, man, since I was 4 years old. And oddly enough, my dad was actually, my little league coach all the way up into high school. Mm-hmm. And so it was a very, very competitive, right? And, consistently each and every day, like being pushed to be the best version of myself, right? So I developed this competitive kind of nature very early on. And so naturally, yes, I was extended a college baseball scholarship to go play at Carson-Newman University, which is a Division II school right outside of Knoxville, Tennessee, for those who don't know what it is. Okay. And so, yeah, man, I was there, graduated in 2012. So kind of timeline-wise, I graduated high school in 2008. And then went to college and graduated with my bachelor's degree in 2012.
2012. I think I was still in middle school. I was just getting into high school at that time.
For sure, man, for sure. Yeah, I have a younger brother that's around your age.
Okay, yeah. So I know you were, what were you majoring in at Carson-Newman University during the time, as an athlete there? For
sure. So I started in business. And the first 2 years, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But as I got, obviously, to my junior year, I kind of specified, and I ended up graduating with a major in accounting.
A major in accounting?
So, which, by the way, hated it. So
really?
This is not a knock on all the accountants out there, but it was not for me. Mm-hmm. I actually graduated, did that for about 2 years. I did some internships, and then I got to work in, at Tennessee State Bank, and, just found out very quickly that, I wasn't kind of a behind-the-desk kind of guy. I'm very much more of a people person. I like meeting new people. I like speaking and getting to know others. And so naturally, I didn't last in the accounting field very long before, I made the transition back from Tennessee down to Georgia. And it was there that I had an opportunity to get back into baseball with the coaching and instruction.
Okay, so I had to ask, just real quick, because you did get your bachelor's in college, right? So
correct.
From getting your bachelor's in college, did you learn anything or take away anything that you learned in college that you use today in your everyday business?
It's funny. Those that know me, personally,
the way you
know
pause,
I'm kind of divided, man. I'm kind of divided on the whole college thing because for me personally, I could sit here and tell you if I had it to go over, if I knew what I knew now, I probably wouldn't have went because I just know now in the world that we live in.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that, though, personally?
Exactly, yeah. So I say that for a couple of reasons. Number one, now, understand, as I say this, I don't feel like everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur, okay? And let me give you a prime example. I have very good friends and even family members of mine who like structure, right? They like the fact that they can clock in, clock out, know when they're off, have the security in a quote-unquote paycheck. So entrepreneurship is most definitely not for everyone. It takes a lot of self-determination, right? You have to be self-disciplined. And so I think that you need to be a certain kind of personality trait, or at least within this kind of, this little bubble over here, in order for you to truly, truly be successful. Like, for instance, if it's hard for you to get up and self-motivate to want to better yourself, it's going to be hard for you to make a ton of money and be successful in entrepreneurship. Like, if you can't go to, and I use this analogy all the time, but, I'm someone, no matter what I do, I want to do it to the best of my ability. Like, when I go into the gym, I don't need a trainer. I'm always going to try, to push hard and get results, because if it's something that I'm willing to spend my time in, then I'm going to try to get the most out of it. And that's just my mindset. So that translates into business, but not everyone is like that, right? I know people, Lord bless them, we need those people in society. But, if they don't have a trainer or don't have someone over them going, hey, let's do one more rep, they've stopped, 10 minutes into their workout and they're ready to go do something else. So they're on their phone, et cetera, et cetera. So I say that to say college is a great thing for people who like structure, need structure, or if you want to go pursue like, hey, I want to go be a teacher. Well, there's a route that you have to go to do that. Or I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. There are certain routes you have to take in order to become or go into that profession. Now, if you're someone like me, who you go to college basically because, your parents are saying, hey, you need to go do this because we live in the South, or to go play, a sport, I didn't go in knowing exactly what it is that I want to basically, do in terms of career. So I was kind of walking around, the first 2 years, a lot of people, they're kind of pleading this whole general studies thing, right? And then their junior year, they're kind of forced to decide. Well, that was kind of what I felt happened to me. I've always been really good in math, right? I graduated high school with my class salutatorian, and math was a strong point of mine, so I always did well in school. And one of my advisors was like, hey, you need to specify in something. You're good in numbers. You're really good in accounting. Finance and accounting are like the top 2 business degrees that you can get right now. Why don't you do that? And so I felt like I was almost pushed into that without even, doing an internship to even see if I liked it. Okay? And so now, you got to understand, when I got out, here's the reality. Okay, as it sits, I was a 21, 22-year-old kid. I was owing $40,000 to $50,000 in student loan debt. I had a degree in something that I didn't even want to go, and absolutely hated to go clock in at work every day. So I'm going, okay, I got to do this for the next 30 years before I can retire. I don't think so. But now I owe all this money, and it's almost kind of like bondage, because you can't even literally bankrupt out of it. Like you can bankrupt out of everything but your student loan debt, right? And so going back to, for me personally, just living in the digitally driven world that we do with social media, with so much, financial opportunity that surrounds the digital and social media space, and just, again, just knowing how, I'm not going to say how easy it was, but just knowing the power and the potential if your headspace is in the right area and if you surround yourself with the right individuals, I know that there is that path can lead to success, and it can happen in a very short time span. So I would probably opt out, and I would have gotten started sooner in entrepreneurship. Okay. Yeah. Now, you mentioned, did I learn anything, from college? And so there was some computer classes that I took, okay, that I use today with my company that I'm glad I had exposure to, and then at the same time, there's some things, with taxes and whatnot that, I feel like I can help prepare myself for my company. So, yes, there are some takeaways. Now, were those takeaways worth $40,000 to $50,000, or could I just go take a course, for $500 and learn how to do that? And so, I'm kind of, for me personally, I don't want to tell people not to go to college, but if I could go back and do it again, I probably would have just jumped into entrepreneurship a lot earlier.
And see, I think that's what, I don't want to say a lot of people, because I want to keep, but even for myself, I think it was a hard decision for me, because personally myself, I was at college too, right? And then I feel like the same thing you were saying, you felt like you're kind of pushed into the scenario, whether you wanted to try it or not. And then for myself, I come from an immigrant background. Both my parents come from Vietnam. Came over here, the basic immigrant story. Came over here with nothing, $500 in their pocket, built a family business, right? So for me, they wanted me to go to college. You're gonna be the first generation to go to college. And then when I went there, I already had I was an early graduate in high school before. So when I went there, I didn't like the model of college, because I was already taking personal development, but I was also finding the mentorship as well, right? But then you had a baseball scholarship as well, which I was also going to play at a D2 college for basketball, but fortunately I tore my meniscus and MCL, and then kind of just stuff went from there, right? So what you were saying, how do people get that grit? You have that grit of if you want to go to the gym, right? You don't need a personal trainer to push you or motivate you. Some people do, but how do people get that grit for them, for themselves?
I think honestly, man, a large majority of it is kind of, your upbringing and stuff. Like for me, because I was brought up the way that I was, always in baseball, always competing with my father being my coach. For me, it developed rather easily.
Really?
Because I was always pushed to be better by him, right? I was forced to kind of be the leader on the team, to be the example for everyone else.
So
after a game, go ahead.
So behind the scenes, did your dad ever get on your back or always yell at you for playing baseball and stuff like that? Did you always?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. For sure. Those that know my dad are probably laughing right now because he was pretty intense, man. But it's funny now because in hindsight, I understand that everything that he did literally kind of shaped me to be the successful businessman that I am today, and it taught me how to handle adversity and things. And don't get me wrong, my dad wasn't just a total douchebag my whole life. I'm very close to my father, love him to death, and we have a great relationship.
It just kind of he pushed you a little bit more, he motivated you. It was
for sure, for sure, and he helped me kind of pull back the blinds a little bit and understand that because I'm from a small town, so it was very much kind of a big fish, small pond kind of deal. I graduated with 90 kids in my class. The whole county only had 3,300 in terms of population, so very, very, very small. So he helped me very early on, because it's easy for a child to get complacent. Again, in a town that small, not being arrogant or anything, just calling, a spade, but I was generally, most of the time, one of the better kids, if not the best kid on the field at any given time, because I was from a small area. So, but he helped me realize, hey, it's not about being the best in this town or this county or this state. There are 50 states out there, and then even beyond that, you're competing with other people if you aspire to play in the big leagues one day, with other literally countries out there. And so he kind of helped me just realize, get out of the whole tunnel vision, and understand that I wasn't just in life competing against, the people that I could see physically right here around me. But even more so, I was competing with myself as well, right? So if I want to get the most out of life, I'm in a constant battle with myself to continue to rank myself up. And so that's kind of where personal development and whatnot starts coming in.
Yeah, I think that was in the same instincts for me. My dad kind of pushed me in a way where it just motivated me more. Whatever he said, just kind of whether it kind of ticked me off in a way sometimes, but I think he does it in a way to like you said, motivate yourself to make you want to build each ladder, just kind of keep going further and further, right?
For sure. Yep. 100%. Yeah.
So you're the founder of Social Revelation. So what does it mean to you? What does it mean to you to be your own boss?
It means everything. I kind of feel I feel fulfilled now. I feel like I'm finally doing something that I was called to do, simply because again, I say this a lot, in interviews, but it's just the reality. I knew kind of very early on, again, just with my upbringing. As early as 10 years old, man, 10 to 12 years old, I can remember thinking back and saying to myself, I will have a business one day. I don't know it. I'll either own my own business or I'll be the CEO of a big company. I just don't know what that looks like yet. And then the other thing was I knew that I would be at least a six-figure earner one day. And I told myself, because again, going back to median income in the town I lived in, kind of the threshold for financial success was making six figures a year, $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
I would be deemed financially successful. And so literally as early as I can remember, dude, I remember just saying, I'm going to make six figures one day and I'm going to either be a CEO or own my own company.
Dude, having an office desk in my town is considerably good. Having an office desk at a corporate job is the best thing here in my town, dude.
That's what's up, man. So there you go. It's all it's ambition, man. And you gotta. The thing is, if you're not around it, you have to go seek those people out. Who basically, because you have to get around those who are sitting in the seat you want to sit in. And I think honestly, that's kind of why I struggle with college as well a little bit, because I always had this mindset. And again, shout out to all the teachers out there. We definitely need an educational system. Don't get me wrong, but for me personally. And again, this is not a knock, but how is someone making $40,000 to $60,000 a year going to teach me how to go make $1 million a year when you've never done that? It's like me trying to teach you how to hit a baseball, but I was a football guy my whole career. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't add up.
Yeah, that was the kind of the same analogy I kind of brought up when I dropped out of college too, right? So, I kind of go to action. So let me ask you, when you were in college, so you went to college as well, you were in debt. To now being, the founder, CEO of your own company, how does it, I would say, when did you kind of get into entrepreneur spirit, the entrepreneur space? Where did that, kind of come about too,
Yeah, for sure. I think it all kind of started to manifest a little bit when I got into instruction for the first time.
Okay.
And let me tell you why. Because when you're doing instruction, I never considered myself ever. If you would have asked me, hey, man, are you a salesman? I would have said no.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because in my mind, I didn't think of myself as a salesman. But I start to realize in hindsight, when I get asked questions like this, you realize that I actually, every single day when I was working and training a kid,
Mm-hmm.
I was selling myself as a person to basically justify the price point of that parent wanting to bring their kid back the next week, right?
Yeah.
So every single time I did a lesson, I was basically selling myself on my credibility to be able to help their kid get to the next level and to warrant like a $45 or $50 per half hour price point. Also, it started to teach me about how to go out and network and build up a clientele base, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, when you get into instruction, you start with zero, right? You have no kids.
Yeah.
And so you have to go out and you have to create clients and make them see value in what you're doing in order to build it up. And it got to a point where, again, in a town of about 100,000 people, because I was living in Warner Robins, Georgia at the time,
Mm-hmm.
I had about 40 to 50 kids every week that was coming in to train with me personally.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Now, did you have like your own facility, or like were you at like a YMCA or stuff?
Yeah, we had like an indoor facility, so I was working for an organization.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, again, March 2017, I decided, hey, if I can, because I kind of how the story, line plays out here is, I took over social media for the company,
Mm-hmm.
the baseball academy I was working for at the time, got some pretty good traction with them. Asked myself, if I can do this for them, why can't I replicate these results for myself? And so that was when I started kind of playing around with this whole personal branding idea.
Yeah.
And I did that, for 3 to 6 months, and ended up basically hitting a home run with some, research and trial and error.
Okay.
When I had free time. That's kind of how I got started.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was in those moments where I realized again, wow, not only did I build clientele and network over here in the baseball industry, but I literally just created something and repeated the process, with clients over here, kind of on the side, with the social media stuff. And so, after about 6 months later, and I realized I had over 100 people that I was helping with social media, I was like, wow, there's demand here, there's value here, very good potential for a company here.
Now, helping,
so that was kind of when it all started.
You said like you were helping. Were you charging people at the time with helping them with social media, or like was it all like free, like doing it like this?
Right. So it started out, friends and family, kind of for free. Hey, let me see what I can do.
Okay.
So obviously, very quickly, because it was working, I started just hustling it. Hey, give me $20, $30, $50, kind of thing. And then naturally, supply and demand. As demand goes up, awareness is generated. We upped our rates, kind of thing.
So let me make sure if I got it right. So at first you were like a trainer and coach, and then after that, when you were getting like the kids, like you're bringing 40 to 50 kids, they were coming in every week to train with you. You're training them as well, and then you took over social media for Baseball Academy, correct? And then
Correct.
From there, you just from 3 to 6 months, just kind of with trial and error, just kind of played around with the personal branding space, the digital marketing space, and that's how. And then from there, just kind of played around with friends and family members' social media, just kind of see how you could build it from there. And then just kind of exploded.
Exactly. That's it.
So did you ever do it like build? I would say like. Did you ever try to build your own personal brand first before doing friends and family members, before trying, 100 other people's account?
Yeah. So it all started with me. Like the whole idea was I want to go and test all of this on myself. So when I would get done with instruction, which would be, like 8 o'clock at night, I would, and my wife now, we were starting to date back in those days, and she remembers, the late nights, the 10 to 2 o'clock in the morning, me staying up, and I'm researching people killing it on Instagram and on different social media platforms. And, I'm trial and error and stuff. And I was doing all of this trial and error on my page to see if I could replicate the results from like a company to a personal brand.
Yeah.
And then what happened was, I got to a point where I was growing my personal Instagram, 10,000 new followers per month. And that was when people started to notice, and the attention started to kind of get on what I was doing, and people started reaching out saying, hey, can you help me? And that's how it all got started.
Okay, so before my next question, another question is when you were doing all your test and trial with your own personal page, how were you scaling in a way for your own personal brand? Were you doing mainly like, Facebook ads, or like were you kind of doing like, mainly to kind of, scale it in a way? Yeah,
for me, it was, the biggest thing is, I had a vision. I knew who I was in that moment. I was a private baseball guy, baseball coach, so everything I posted was aligned with that vision. Meaning every time I posted, I was basically on a baseball field. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is you got to ask yourself, where are the people that I'm trying to reach?
Yeah.
Okay, and for me, the answer to that question was, probably the people who are following accounts like at Major League Baseball, okay, at Bryce Harper, right?
Yep.
Who people don't know. Obviously, he's outfielder now for the Philadelphia Phillies, and at Mike Trout, who obviously is an outfielder, for the Angels. So. And they're young guys in their careers too. So, with me being 28 years old, they're a few years younger than me, but in essence, they're still in their 20s. And so I was like, okay, if I go and interact with the community following Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, and Major League Baseball, say on Instagram, that would generate awareness, and basically pique the interest of other people who are also interested in baseball because they're kind of pre-qualified. And then the whole idea is that once they get to my page and they see that my bio, my vision, my content is also aligned with baseball, there's going to be conversions there, and that's what happened.
Okay, so talk about social revelation now. Talk about how did you start it, and in the beginning of the process, how did you kind of scale your business at first? For
sure. So social revelation, we scale very quickly, basically because of a business model. The way we did it was, because a lot of people don't realize this, but no, we do not have a headquarters with 300 employees. Right? So I work remotely from home, and my team, my team of literally, 5 employees on payroll, are also working remotely from home. And so the reality is, it doesn't take a lot of human resources for us to be able to go out and operate and fulfill the services that we provide. Okay, and so how do we do that? How do we get to a point in 2019 where we manage 600 clients? I'll tell you how. It all starts with our partnerships. And so I had this idea that, if I wanted to get to, say, 600 clients, imagine how long that would take if I went door to door, meeting to meeting, phone call to phone call, how long it would take for me personally to close 600 clients. So I got a little bit smarter, and I was like, okay, hey, listen, I've always been a big believer in, work smarter, not harder. Yeah. And so I said, if I can go out and basically pitch marketing companies, because marketing companies have been around for forever, right? 80s, 90s, early 2000s, before social media. And the idea was, these people are selling radio ads, TV ads, billboards, newspaper spots, et cetera, et cetera. And I wanted to come in with this new social media growth concept, and I wanted to show them value. So I already knew these companies had 50 to 100 or a couple hundred clients, and I knew if I could come in, take one of their accounts, show them value, I knew they would want to basically, white label and resell, because it would make them more money as a company. Their clients would be happier because now they're getting a new service, right, that they can go and generate more leads and money with. And then obviously I would be able to monetize as well. So it's like a win-win-win. So I went to, partnership number 1, and I basically was able to close that deal, show them enough value where they said, hey, we have over 200 clients. We would love to offer this, add it to our pitch deck. We want to white label and resell. And, I did that right there several different times. I kept repeating the process. So now, we have over 10 partner firms, right? And they're located all over the world. We have one in Australia. We have one in Bulgaria. We have one in West Palm Beach, Florida. We have one in New York. We have one in Detroit, Michigan. We have one in Scottsdale, Arizona. We have one in LA, et cetera, et cetera. And so now these people are employing their own sales force to go out into the community, right, and close, obviously, these new deals so they can make money. And we offer it to them at wholesale pricing, okay, and it kind of, you get better rates, obviously, as volume increases for you. And then all we have to focus on as all that traffic flow, is signing up, it's all coming to us or back to us for fulfillment. So really, my team focuses on fulfillment, and that's kind of how the model was created. It keeps my overhead down. It keeps my resources that I need down, but yet we're able to really scale our clientele and make money.
It's just less work for you overall in the process a little bit as well.
Exactly. And so that was kind of how we went out and did it, and then naturally, so we started like kind of on Instagram. Yeah, is how it originated, and now as we've gotten bigger, networked, my personal branding's gotten a little bit better. I've now kind of expanding our own pitch deck because, I tell people all the time, we can literally almost fulfill anything within the social and digital space. Yeah. Just because of the power of the partnerships. You know what I mean? They say, if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go with others, and that's exactly how this business was built.
Okay, and I was going to ask you, my next question is, where where did the idea or where did the model of, social revelation like come to about,
For sure. So, well, the name, obviously, we'll start there.
Yeah.
Social being social media because we originated on Instagram. Revelation, more so because I come from a Christian background.
Okay.
So for me, the word revelation, if you look at the definition, it is basically making known an unknown truth. So in my mind, I was like, hey, I can kill two birds, with one stone here. It kind of takes care of my Christian background, but at the same time, we're basically taking brands who are not yet known, are facing obscurity, and we're making those brands known through what we're doing with social and with digital. And so that's kind of how the name Social Revelation got coined. But then, yeah, man, honestly, like I said, I tell people this thing kind of fell in my lap. If you would have asked me 3 years ago, hey, do you think you'll ever own a social media marketing company? I would have probably been like, what? No. But the reality is, we were providing enough value to other people. It just got to a point to where I realized how many people I was not only inspiring, but literally helping go out and, live better lives, build better businesses, literally change lifestyles. And that was very gratifying. And I said, why not? And I
Could
just
you ever
eventually
see yourself doing something different? Like, do you think you could have been a trainer or coach your whole life?
I think so, but a couple things started to get me thinking on a different wavelength back in those days. In 2017, number one being, I was 27 years old. I started to date someone who I knew very early on was eventually going to turn into my wife, right?
Okay.
Obviously. And I started thinking, man, just like most people do, started thinking about kids. And I was like, I remember some of the best days of my life was me and my dad's relationship on a baseball field in those early days. Like, he was always the coach of those teams, right? So in my mind, if I have a kid or a girl, as well, who wants to get into sports, I also want to have the opportunity to be able to be around and coach those teams. So at the time, if you're an instructor, as you know, you're working when kids are out of school. And I didn't want to be the dad who was always working when their kid was out of school, because that's when kids are available. Number two was I knew that at a certain point in time, it's physical labor to go and throw BP and do a pitching lesson on your shoulder, right? And I'd been in baseball my whole life, so I had concerns with how long would my shoulder last or hold up. If I get sick or I break my hand or I tear something on my shoulder, I'm not making money. And then I started to think,
money.
I started to transition from a rich mindset into a wealth mindset. Meaning, how can I get more? I was like, man, I'm tired of trading my time for money. How can I create something more residual? And so it was a kind of all of those things combined, which led me into eventually going, I got to start split testing some different ideas.
Okay, understandable. So I wanted to ask this kind of like for more of the audience viewers question is, what are your top 5 tips for growing, a personal brand in 2019?
For sure. Number one, like I said, clear vision. You got to have a clear vision. And what I mean by vision is know who you are right now, but also know who you want to be and how you want to be perceived in the next 5 to 10 years. Okay? Because the reality is, if you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, but you're currently, everything about your bio and the content you're putting out says that you're, say, a fitness guru, like everything you post is you're in the gym, that's not really going to resonate with people, or tell them that you're trying to go into entrepreneurship. So number one is you got to get real clear on how you want to be perceived. You got to get clear on the vision, where you want to be in 5 to 10 years. Step 2, once you know that, is everything you start putting out. Stories on your bio, which I tell people right here, your bio is basically your first impression. It's your resume, okay? So I tell people, too, we use a 3-second rule. Within 3 seconds of someone coming to your page, by looking at your bio, your profile picture, and like the very first top 3 posts, they should know immediately who you are, what you do, and what they can expect from you if they become a follower of your page. So we use a 3-second rule because today we don't have people's attention nearly as long as we did 10 years ago. Okay. So once you know, number one, number two, once your bio is good, once all your content you're putting out, like pictures, videos, stories, are all aligned with that vision, right, and that end goal, then you're going to start to see some traction, okay? Because now you're ready to basically bring traffic flow to your page because everything is starting to align with what it is that you're trying to accomplish, right? It's kind of like I can't go and sell you an iPhone as a company if I'm posting things about baseball on my page every other post.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I first have to get my resume, right? My bio. I have to align that to where people know I'm a cell phone company, that I sell iPhones. I have to post the new iPhone products that I have, and I have to know that I want to be a big player in the cell phone space in the next 5 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. Then I become ready to go get the traffic. So then number 3 would be, okay, figure out where are the people that you're trying to reach. Okay, it's kind of like someone told me one time when you're searching, if you want to go fishing, don't go to the ocean, right? Because there's a lot of water, and it could be a very long time before you catch a fish. If you're trying to go catch fish, you go to the fish farm, because you know when you walk by, the fish are right there, and you pick them up. Okay, so that's how we need to start thinking about where is my target consumer or my target audience with your specific brand. And then once you can ask yourself those questions, where are those people? Well, now it's just basically putting yourself in a position to go and interact within that community of people in order to bring exposure and awareness back to your own page. And once you do that on a consistent, regular basis, and there are ways you can do it manually. If you want to do it manually, you can outsource it to a VA. If you want to outsource it, you can hire companies like Social Revelation to go and do that for you so that you can get your time back in your day. Mm-hmm. We are more than happy to take that workload on for you. And so, in essence, when you get all of those things basically lined up, right, and we're all kind of stroking towards the same end goal, you're going to start to really, really, really see movement. But I would say, man, those are probably the top 4 or 5 most basic things that you got to have as a solid foundation. If you're out of line on any of those right there, odds are you're struggling building an audience base and then driving value to that audience base.
Okay, so for my question, when you first started early on, did you have any struggles early on that kind of made you want to quit? Kind of made you want to quit?
For sure, when you're testing or split testing, as we know, it costs a ton of time. It can cost you a ton of money, and you probably don't get good results in the beginning. That's part of marketing. Yeah. And it happened for me. The first 2 weeks, I'm staying up 10, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm not getting a ton of results at all. And you just that's why I say you have to be self-disciplined. Because it's like being in the gym for 2 weeks, but you're not seeing any results. They're coming, but it's tough to look in the mirror and you're not seeing it immediately.
Wait for it.
Yeah, but because we live in a society where we want immediate gratification. Mm-hmm. We like to go eat at fast food restaurants, get our food right now. We like to pick up the phone and text someone and get a response right now. That's the world we live in. Mm-hmm. And so we expect almost immediate results. It's kind of how our brain is trained nowadays. Yeah. And the reality is you have to be disciplined, because the reality is, a lot of times, especially when you're split testing in an entrepreneurship, you're not going to get immediate results. Mm-hmm. But like everything in life, it's the same with success. There is a proven formula that if you do these things in that formula, you will get, this end result, right? A, B, and C will equal, D, E, and F every single time. Mm-hmm. So we just have to make sure that we're being consistent daily, right? We are being disciplined, right? We have a morning routine in place. We are taking time to do personal development every day. We are surrounding ourselves with people who are doing what we want to do, right? Because it's through those things. And again, just study people who are successful, right? If you study people who are successful, start to write down all the things that they have in common, and you'll start to get your list of things in that formula that you can go and do every day to be successful. Odds are, if you take someone like a Grant Cardone, write out his morning routine and what he does every day, and then you write out what you do every single day. If these things are polar opposites, odds are you're probably not making a lot of money, right? Because he's obviously making a ton of money, so this is what we need to kind of model after.
So that's your kind of statement. You say if you mimic Grant Cardone in a way, then you'll kind of go after what you want. Who do you mimic in a way that you kind of always say look up to?
Grant Cardone is my guy. People that follow me know that, and then I'm an Ed Mylett fan as well. So, Grant and Ed Mylett are probably my 2. Mm-hmm. I tell people this all the time, too, when they're looking for mentors. The key is, you don't want to have 5 to 10 different mentors. Yeah. And the reason I say that is because Grant Cardone and his thinking and Dave Ramsey and his thinking, they are polar opposites on different issues. Yeah. They're both worth hundreds of millions of dollars, so it's like, who do I believe, right? Mm-hmm. So if you follow both of them, I'm not saying that it's wrong or that one's right and the other one's wrong. I'm just saying that when issues arise and these two people think on 2 totally different ends of the spectrum, we're called into that, well, who do I go with kind of thing. And so you need to pick Grant's my guy, my main guy. Ed Myllett's kind of my number two, but him and Grant to me are kind of one and the same. They're very similar in their way of thinking. Mm-hmm. And so that's the two that I run with. And, I like Gary Vee. I know of Gary Vee, but he's not my top two.
Yeah. I think Gary Vee is kind of like, for me, I guess the more younger crowd like me kind of more resonates in the way with, I don't know, like with the profanity and stuff. Like, right. I don't know, it's more resonating, yeah. I like the way how he says it. But so what's the first step for someone? What's the first step for someone starting a business who doesn't have any money?
If you don't have money, it just means you're going to have to probably go and do more yourself. I started my company, man, with $2,500 that I had saved up in the bank. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, for the first full year, I had no employees. So what does that mean for me? I did 100% of everything around my business myself. Mm-hmm. So, it doesn't mean that you can't get started or you can't go and do something. The reality is, like I said, $2,500. I started a company that now today is a 7-figure business, and again, that just means you're just going to have to do more and more work. Mm-hmm. So if you're someone who kind of shies away from hard work, mm-hmm. and that's not you, then the odds are I can go in and tell you don't want to get in entrepreneurship anyway. Okay. But if you're someone who likes the challenge, you don't mind hard work, don't let limited budget basically deter you from going after what you want to do.
So my next question, you're talking about deter budget. At any point in time when you first started, were you ever scared of kind of getting your business going? Like, did you ever have something that ever kind of held you back from starting your business, or once you kind of had the idea, did you want run with it 100%?
No, I think we all, because I get asked the question too. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be? Yeah, it would be to get started earlier. Because the reality is, dude, I've had thoughts about running a business since I was 10 years old. Yeah. Well, why did it take me till I was 27 to go and start something? Mm-hmm. Same reason why everyone else delays it. You think about inadequacy. You think about failure. You think about the fact of, I can't leave what I got going right here. Yeah. Right? I can't leave this for an opportunity to go create this and it not work. And then, what am I gonna do? And I found out that, when you start to doubt yourself, the best thing you can do is always remember why you got started. And what I mean by that is, if you haven't got started, is what are your reasons now for why you want to do something different? Because that is always going to be far more important than you going and taking the risk and it not working out. I tell people all the time who are, and I know business owners who will say the same thing. Most of them will vouch for the fact that I would much rather make $20,000 a year being my own boss on my own terms than going and making $100,000 or $1 million a year working for someone else, being absolutely miserable, having someone else tell me when I can go to the bathroom, when I have to be at work, what vacation time I can have a year, when I have to clock in, clock out, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just way more fulfilling when you're doing something that's yours. Mm-hmm. And I remember I still have today a screenshot on my phone of the very first check I ever got from my business. And I got more excited about that one check because it was my business. Mm-hmm. And you see it all the time. I always wondered when I walked into restaurants why every restaurant had the $1 bill, the first dollar they ever made, stapled to the wall.
Yeah, put it on the wall.
I always wondered that. Yeah. But now being a business owner, 100% understand it.
Yeah. Because we did the same reason. We did with a $20 bill. I'm like, why do we have a $20 bill stapled, put in like a frame was? It's the first bill we ever got as a business.
Huge. Right? It's huge, and you can't ever explain that to anyone else unless they're a business owner. Yeah. But your friends, if they don't own their business, if they're not in entrepreneurship, they'll never understand it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to I don't know, like you said, it's kind of hard if you don't have a business. It's kind of hard to kind of feel. But then you brought up the point. You said you'll be happy if you made $20,000 a year rather than have $100,000 hating your job. So the big question is, a big topic now is, can money buy happiness? Yeah.
I think there's a medium to everything. Again, coming from a Christian background, the obvious answer to that is no. But let me kind of elaborate here. The reality is, we live in a world that is money driven. Uh-huh. Okay, so let me start with that. Yep. And it's not about the money, which is what I tell my friends and my family. It's about the freedom that you get from having the money. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? It's a little bit different. The money allows me to be able to sit here in my bedroom on a Tuesday at 12:58, right, Eastern time, and talk to you on a podcast. Yeah. Why? Because the money gives me that freedom that I don't have to go clock in at a 9-to-5 job right now and do that. Mm-hmm. So the money also gives me the freedom, that we can go take vacations, without having to ask someone off for work.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a lot of things where I call money freedom points, and it's the freedom points that basically that I'm after to live the life on my terms, not someone else's. It's not about the money itself. Okay. And again, going back to does money equal happiness? No, because at the end of the day, dude, at a certain point, why do you think celebrities give away so much money to charity? The reality is, once you hit a certain level of income, dude, I look statistically, the top end marginal utility curve for money, which if you don't know what marginal utility is, it means maximum satisfaction that you can get. It's kind of like if I have, let me explain it this way. If I have, basically a dozen cookies right here, and you're hungry, right? The first cookie you eat, you're going to have a pretty good marginal utility. The second cookie, probably a little bit higher because you're like, oh man. The third cookie, you're probably reaching your peak. Mm-hmm. And by the fourth and fifth and sixth cookie, you don't even want cookies anymore because that marginal utility has been diminished because now you're full. You're like, it's too much sugar. Same thing can happen with money. So maximum marginal utility is proven to be $200,000 a year.
Really?
So what about these people that make $20 million a year?
Yeah.
And I tell people this too. Go do the math. Pick the house you want to live in. Pick the car you want to drive. I'm talking your dream house, your dream car. What 3 dream vacations would you love to be or go on every year? Go add all those up, what it would cost you monthly to do that. And I guarantee you what you're going to find out, because I did it too. It takes you far less money to actually go live that perfect dream life than what we think that it takes. And so that's why at $200,000 a year, I mean, quick math just says, let's just say around $20,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, think about right now, if you were making, and you may be, you're probably making more, whatever, but if you're making $20,000 a month, you can pretty much drive what you want to drive within reason, live where you want to live within reason, and go and do whatever vacation you want to within reason. I'm making $20,000 a month. Okay. Well, that's $240,000 a year. So you're right there at maximum marginal utility. Mm-hmm. And anything above that, it just means like what about LeBron James, dude, making $36 million a year?
Yeah.
I mean, you can only go spend so much money every single day. Like I tell my wife, like, if you went and spent $10,000 today, you're probably going to feel really good. Mm-hmm. And you may feel good the second day, the third day, the fourth day. But what about the 165th day? I mean, is it really that fulfilling for you to go and spend another $10,000? Like, how much stuff do we need? You know what I mean? And so I go back to, you need to be well-rounded with your money. Build it to a level where you have enough freedom. You can help your friends and family who you want to help. You can give to whatever charitable, foundations or nonprofits you want to give to. And then at the end of the day, you don't ever have to really worry about your bills getting paid. To me, that is true happiness, but I don't need to go and make $10 million a year and have a yacht and a personal plane and an island and all this to be happy.
Okay.
But I'll also leave you with, I ain't never seen anybody unhappy on the back of a jet ski. So,
yo, I like that. I like that one. No, you never see someone unhappy on the back of the jet ski, man. No, it's the best thing ever.
So that's why I continue to hustle every day, man. Because again, and we live in America. Yeah. We live in a glamorous where everyone's trying to better everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's trying to best everybody. But for me, it's not about money, man. It's just living my life on my terms and just trying to go and impact the most amount of people that I can, literally on a national and worldly scale. And in order to do that, dude, realistically, it takes money to do that.
Okay, understandable. And then you're also a member of the Forbes Agency Council as well, right?
Correct.
Okay, so how did you kind of get in that role? And then, what did it feel like when, you got the opportunity to have the role?
For sure. So Forbes Agency Council was huge, man. It was awesome. Obviously very gratifying, because when you think digital PR, our minds immediately go to Forbes as one of the top. So in terms of like just being prestigious, it was super cool to be in a prestigious magazine or to be a part of a group that's affiliated at all with Forbes. And I would just say, man, from a business standpoint, it helped me a lot. And from a personal branding standpoint, it made the sales process easier, right? It made people want to follow my brand. It made my leverage just significantly went up because I can put it on the back of my business card and go, hey, by the way, my company's featured in Forbes. Mm-hmm. It just helps shorten that sales process. So it was super cool, super fulfilling. I'm glad that it happened. And in order for you to qualify, your company has to do 7 figures in revenue.
Okay.
So kind of once you get there, you go on like a little mini interview process where a member of them calls you and kind of does an interview, obviously to make sure that you're not fake or just, a total moron. You know what I mean? Like you have to be a good person, like someone who they would want to be affiliated with them. But in essence, you got to think about it this way too. Agency counsel is also good for Forbes because, there's a lot of topics out there to cover within the Forbes publication, and they can't go and hire a paid staff member to cover all of those topics, because the reality is there's not as many people. Social media is a very new thing, right? So the 40, 50, 60-year-old people that are writing for Forbes, are they really considered social media experts? Probably not, right? This is our generation of stuff, and so the reality is they need to go find people like myself and other people who want to be a part of the council, which is why they brought me on, because you have to be an expert authority in your field. So for me, because I was considered via Forbes a social media and digital marketing expert, their idea was if we can bring him onto our staff and get him writing on this topic, we're covering a new topic, but we're also covering it from a credible standpoint, right? So we could have leverage by using someone who lives in the industry every day. Yeah. So that's it's a win-win for both parties.
Okay, so even when you had your interview, was it did you fly out to them for the interview process, or how did that kind of go about it?
Yeah, it was just a phone interview, and then follow up via email. But it was a phone interview I had, with someone who worked there, and again, the lady said, we would love to have one who's basically someone like you who's went and done what you've done within the social and digital space. Mm-hmm. We would love to have you writing pieces for our audience within this space. So like for me, when I write articles, I can only write about social and digital marketing because that's why Forbes brought me onto the platform, was to cover that area. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's kind of how the agency stuff works. A little bit different than a staff writer. Staff writer, they can go and call someone and do a full interview piece on someone else. But the agency members have to write about whatever topic it is that they were brought on for. And for me, that's social media.
Okay, awesome. Well, Ryan, we're kind of coming to the end of the show, but before we leave, man, we do a takeaway with our guests. What would your one advice be through the ups and downs and struggles that you had to go through to be where you are today, man?
I would just say, man, be relentless. Entrepreneurship is known, man, to have many ups and downs. The odds of you hitting a home run on your first swing, probably not going to happen. It does happen for some. And a lot of times it's easy for us to compare ourselves with those people who swing one time and hit a home run. I had a very fast up and coming. I kind of got lucky. Now, what people don't realize is I worked at my first job out of college that I absolutely hated and was at a low point in my life. They didn't see the very first entrepreneurial startup that failed for me. They didn't see the first idea that I had in entrepreneurship that was a total, now that I look back at it, it was a complete joke. I was like, wow, that never would have worked. Yeah. And so it literally took me, this was my fourth kind of attempt at entrepreneurship before it ever really started taking off. And yes, because I had some experience, because of my background, because I chose to be relentless, basically saying, hey, this is going to work because I don't have a plan B, this is going to work. With that attitude and that mindset, and just with, again, the characteristics of things that you need to have in the success formula to be successful, and being consistent with those things daily, I think that's why I had such the big up and coming that I did in such a short amount of time that I did. So for me, man, it's just get started. That would be my one biggest takeaway. Don't be me where you look, you get to a certain area one day and you look back and you're like, I wish I would have started 3 years earlier. Okay? A lot of us are putting false hope in a paycheck that comes from someone else. And the reality is that's a false sense of security. Why? Because at any point in time, that company can come in and go, you know what, you're fired. Same thing can happen with my parents who have been in education for 30 years. Although they have tenure, the reality is they're relying on someone else to pay them, and they can be terminated at any point in time. So I'll leave you with, when it comes to you and your family, right, or your future family, would you rather put your finances, which is such a huge part of our lives, in someone else's hands, or would you rather be the person to take initiative and go, you know what, I'm going to put it in my own hands, and I'm going to go build this myself for my future family? And it's kind of like my dad used to tell me growing up, when and we'll use a baseball reference here, but when I was in the batter's box and I had 2 strikes, he would always tell me, literally, do you trust yourself more with the bat in your hands or the guy standing behind the catcher being the umpire? Who do you trust more?
Yes,
You know,
sir.
with 2
Yeah.
strikes, if it's around the plate, you should trust yourself enough to obviously swing the bat, then leave it in his hands to basically call it a ball.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the same mindset that I took when it comes to relying on someone else for income versus relying on me for income.
Okay, amazing, amazing. We're gonna leave the show like that. I love the tip, man. Well, thank you, Ryan, for taking the time to be here, man. You know, sharing your advice with me as well. Would you like to tell me where they can find you on social media? And then also, you have a offer that you wanted to give to the audience as well, so you could kind of explain that and tell them about that too.
For sure. So, I have a personal website. If you want to connect with me there, it's just officialryanwhite.com. If you want to check me out on social media, obviously the easiest place is on Instagram. It's just @RyanWhite. And, again, man, we've went out and we've created some pretty powerful info products teaching people, how to go and do, basically what I went and did over the last 2 years in growing and monetizing the social media space. And so, if you want to kind of dive into that and basically replicate those results, we have a course that we created. It's literally 52 videos, man, that range in 2 to 10 minutes in length, so very, very, very in-depth. You can go check that out at officialmasterycourse.com. And if you really don't have the budget, to kind of jump onto the course, but you still want to do a little bit more, we have an ebook as well for sale, which you can grab at masteryebook.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for tuning into the Millennial Movement. Ryan, thank you again for being on the show, man. I really appreciate you taking your time to be here.
I appreciate you having me, Ricky.
Awesome.
I work hard every motherfucking day. I work